What was the comeback that finally ended the roast sessions? I worked as a pediatric nurse in a specialized wing for young surgery patients, and the kids there were tougher than most adults. They had survived things no child should have to, yet they still managed to find humor in the darkest places. The leader of the group was Marcus, though everyone called him Mach 1 because of how fast he moved in his custom wheelchair. He was 12, had spiky dark hair, and had lost his lower right leg in an accident 2 years prior. Marcus ran that ward like a professional comedian. Whenever a new patient arrived, he would roll over, size them up, and let the jokes fly. It was his way of initiating them into the group. Marcus's specialty was yo mama jokes. He had the kind of delivery that would make a late-night host jealous. I remember when 9-year-old Toby arrived. He had lost his left arm in a farm machinery accident and was clearly struggling. He barely spoke and spent most of his time staring at the ceiling. After visiting hours ended and his parents left, Marcus rolled up with his usual entourage of 4 other kids. Marcus parked next to Toby's bed and gave him a smirk. Hey, new guy, don't laugh too hard or your other arm might fly off. Ready? Toby didn't respond. He just looked terrified. Marcus didn't wait. Yo, mama, so clumsy. She tripped over the Wi-Fi. The other kids giggled, but Toby just blinked. Marcus leaned in. Yo, mama, so slow. It takes her all day to watch a 30-minute show. The crowd laughed, but Toby pulled his covers up. I was nearby checking a monitor, keeping an eye on them. Usually, the new kids started laughing after a few rounds, realizing it was all in good fun. But Toby wasn't breaking. Marcus went for a classic. Yo, mama, so old. Her birth certificate is written in stone. The kids were howling. One boy was slapping his bed rail in delight, but Toby remained stoic. Marcus decided to go all out. He cleared his throat and announced to the ward, Yo, mama, so ugly. When she walks into a bank, they turn off the cameras. Marcus was basking in the glory, but then Toby's expression shifted. His jaw set, and he looked Marcus dead in the eye. Is that the best you can do? Toby asked. The ward went silent. Marcus's smirk wavered. Oh, you think you're a pro? Let's hear it then. Toby sat up, the fear gone from his face. Yo, mama, so confused. She went to the dentist to get a Bluetooth installed. It was a weak start, and a few kids gave polite chuckles. Marcus's crew looked relieved, but Toby was just warming up. He took a deep breath and started firing back like a machine gun. Yo, mama, so gassy. She's the reason for global warming. She's so ugly she made an onion cry. She's so loud, she gave the neighbors a headache from 3 blocks away. The jokes were coming fast and landing hard. Kids were peeking out of their rooms to listen. Even the staff stopped to watch the showdown. Marcus was turning red, gripping his armrests. Then Toby delivered the knockout punch. He leaned forward and said quietly, Yo, mama, so forgetful. She hasn't remembered to visit her son in this hospital for 6 months. The silence that followed was heavy. Everyone knew Marcus's mother hadn't been by in half a year. She couldn't deal with the reality of his injury and only sent cards now. It was the one topic that was strictly off limits. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His eyes welled up, and he suddenly spun his chair around, racing back to his room and slamming the door. The other kids quietly drifted back to their own beds. Toby lay back down and returned to staring at the wall, but for the first time since he arrived, I saw a tiny, satisfied smile on his face. He wasn't just the new kid anymore. The shift in the ward was immediate and uncomfortable. For months, Marcus's humor had been the glue holding everyone together, a defense mechanism against the sterile walls and the pain. But Toby had found the one crack in Marcus's armor, and he'd driven a spike into it. The laughter didn't return for 3 days. Marcus stayed in his room, refusing to lead the hallway races or hold court during dinner. He stopped making jokes entirely. It was like the light had gone out in the wing. Toby, on the other hand, started to heal. He moved from his bed to a chair and then to the physical therapy room, his expression unreadable. I'm concerned about Marcus. He wasn't eating much, and he'd stopped engaging with the nurses. I decided to check on him during the night shift when the ward was at its quietest. Hey, Mosh 1, I said softly, knocking on his door. He was staring out the window, the moon reflecting off his wheelchair. You've been pretty quiet lately. The other kids are asking when the next show starts. There isn't a show, Marcus said, his voice small and devoid of its usual theatrics. Toby was right. My mom isn't coming. Everyone knows it. I'm just a guy in a chair with no leg and no mom. I sat on the edge of his bed. Marcus, your mom's absence isn't about you. It's about her. She's scared. It doesn't make the jokes less funny, and it doesn't make you less of a leader here. He didn't answer. He just looked down at his stump. The next morning, the tension reached a breaking point. Toby was in the hallway, practicing balance with his one arm, when Marcus finally emerged from his room. The other kids stopped what they were doing, expecting a confrontation. I gripped my clipboard, ready to intervene. Marcus rolled slowly toward Toby. He stopped a few feet away. Toby didn't look up, just kept focusing on his footing. Hey, Marcus said. Toby stopped and looked at him. The air felt like it was charged with electricity. That was a good one, Marcus said. It wasn't a joke. His voice was steady. The one about my mom. It was the best yo mama joke I've ever heard, mainly because it was true. Toby's shoulders dropped slightly. He didn't look triumphant anymore. He looked guilty. I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't have said it. I wanted you to stop. Marcus nodded. I get it. I was being a jerk. I use the joke so I don't have to think about the other stuff. But you showed me that the other stuff is still there, no matter how much I laugh. Marcus reached out his hand. Toby hesitated, then took it with his remaining hand. They shook. But, Marcus added, a familiar glint returning to his eyes. Yo mama's so short, she has to use a ladder to pick up a dime. Toby choked out a laugh. Yo mama's so old, she knew Burger King when he was just a prince. The ward erupted. It wasn't the roar of a roast session. It was the sound of relief. Marcus was back, but the dynamic had shifted. It wasn't a hierarchy anymore. Toby and Marcus became an inseparable duo, the one-legged driver and the one-armed navigator. They stopped targeting the new kids with cruelty. Instead, they used the humor to bridge the gap. When a little girl arrived for heart surgery, terrified of the needles, Marcus and Toby showed up at her door. Hey, Marcus said, don't worry about the doctors. They're so slow. They'd lose a race to a snail in reverse. The roast sessions didn't end that day, but they changed. They weren't about tearing people down anymore. They were about acknowledging the scars and finding a way to laugh at the world that gave them. Toby didn't just join the group. He reminded Marcus that even the king of the ward needed to be human. Marcus's mom eventually did visit, 8 months after the accident. It was awkward and she cried the whole time, but Marcus handled it with a grace I hadn't expected. After she left, he rolled over to Toby. Yo mama's so proud, Marcus whispered. Which one? Toby asked. Mine, Marcus said, because she finally saw me. Would you like me to describe the day Marcus and Toby both got discharged, or focus on a new patient who challenged their new partnership? The discharge day for Marcus was a day the ward had been dreading and celebrating all at once. For over a year, he had been the heartbeat of the hall. He had seen kids come and go, some walking out on their own and some being wheeled out with more equipment than they arrived with. I'm watching him pack his bag, the small duffel he'd arrived with that now looked too tiny for the person he'd become. Toby was sitting on the edge of the bed, his one arm resting on his knee. The machine gun jokes were quiet today. So, Toby said, breaking the silence, who's gonna tell the new guy in 402 that his haircut makes him look like a brush. Marcus paused, folding a sweatshirt with careful precision. You've got the delivery for it now. Just don't do the mom jokes right away. You gotta build up to that. I don't think I'll ever do the mom jokes again, Toby admitted. That was a one-time only tactical nuke. Marcus laughed, a real, throat-deep sound. He wheeled over to Toby and stuck out his hand. Keep the ward in line, Toby. If I come back from my checkup and find out everyone is being all serious and medical, I'm going to be disappointed. I'll keep it loud, Toby promised. As Marcus's father wheeled him toward the sliding glass doors of the exit, the entire wing gathered at the nurse's station. It was a tradition we didn't officially encourage, but never stopped. Kids in gowns, kids on IV poles, and kids in wheelchairs lined the hallway. Marcus stopped at the door. He turned his chair around one last time. He looked at the sterile lighting, the smell of antiseptic, and the row of kids who looked like a broken but beautiful mosaic. Yo, mama, so lucky, Marcus shouted, his voice echoing off the linoleum. The ward went dead silent. Why? Toby yelled back from the front of the crowd. Because she's getting her son back today. Marcus grinned, gave a sharp two-finger salute, and disappeared through the doors. The ward felt empty for about 5 minutes. Then, a new admission arrived, a 7-year-old boy with a cast on both legs, looking like his world had ended. He was being wheeled toward room 405, sobbing quietly into a stuffed bear. Toby watched him for a second, then looked at the rest of the crew. He nodded toward the new kid. All right, let's go. We have work to do. Toby walked not perfectly, but with a steady, determined pace over to the boy's room. He leaned against the doorframe, his empty sleeve tucked neatly into his pocket. Hey, new guy, Toby said, his voice mimicking Marcus's classic smirk. Don't cry too hard or you'll short-circuit the bed. You ready for a joke? The boy looked up, sniffing. A joke? Yeah. Yo mama's so short, she went to a salon to get her hair done and they gave her a to-go bag because she couldn't reach the chair. The boy blinked, a tear hanging off his eyelash. I'm standing at the nurse's station, writing my shift report, and I realized that Marcus didn't just leave a void. He left a legacy. The jokes weren't just words. They were a survival language. And as long as Toby was there to speak it, the kids in this wing were going to be just fine. Would you like me to follow Marcus's first week back at school, or describe Toby's final physical therapy milestone before he followed Marcus out those doors? Toby's final physical therapy milestone arrived on a Tuesday, exactly 4 months after the Yo Mama showdown that had changed the ward. The goal was simple but daunting. He had to complete a full circuit of the obstacle course in the gym, using only his right arm for balance and his prosthetic ready stance. Standing by the parallel bars, watching him. In his place was a kid with calloused palms and a focused glare. He didn't look at his missing arm anymore. He looked at the finish line. You got this, machine gun, I cheered from the sidelines. Toby took a breath and started. He navigated the foam blocks, pivoted on the balance beam, and reached the final hurdle, a heavy door he had to open and close while maintaining his footing. His face was beaded with sweat. His tongue poked out the corner of his mouth, a sign of intense concentration. When the door clicked shut and he stood tall on the other side, the PT instructor blew the whistle. Discharge papers are being signed, Toby, she said with a grin. You're clear. The celebration back in the wing was quieter than Marcus's had been. Toby wasn't the type for a grand exit. He went around to each bed, shaking hands, offering one last joke to the kids he was leaving behind. He spent the most time with the boy in 405, the one with the double leg casts. Remember, Toby told him, when the physical therapy hurts, just imagine the therapist is a giant toe you're trying to kick. It helps with the motivation. When Toby reached the nurse's station, he handed me a small, folded piece of paper. For Marcus, he said. I watched him walk out with his parents. He didn't look back once. He was too busy looking at the world outside the glass, a world he was finally ready to face with one arm and 1,000 jokes. Later that afternoon, Marcus did indeed show up for his prosthetic adjustment. He looked healthy, his skin tanned from being outdoors, and he was rocking a new hoodie that said times speed limit 55 times with a picture of a wheelchair. Where's the sniper? Marcus asked, looking toward Toby's empty bed. He went home 2 hours ago, I said, handing him the note. Marcus opened it. I saw his eyes scan the messy handwriting, and then he burst out laughing, a loud, genuine sound that made the new kids in the hall peek out of their rooms. What did he write? I asked. Marcus turned the paper around. It was a drawing of a stick figure with one leg and a stick figure with one arm, standing together. Underneath, Toby had written, asterisk, yo mama's so proud of us. She's actually telling the neighbors the truth. Asterisk. Marcus tucked the note into his pocket, his smile softening. Yeah, he whispered. She is. He didn't stay long. He had a life to get back to. As I watched him roll away, I realized the ward wasn't just a place of healing bodies. It was a place of reclaiming spirits. Marcus had given them the laughter. Toby had given them the truth. And together, they had taught everyone that a missing limb didn't mean a missing life. I went back to my station, picked up my pen, and started the next shift. The ward was noisy again, just the way it was supposed to be. Would you like me to tell a story about a new leader rising in the ward after they both left? Or follow Marcus and Toby's first meeting outside the hospital walls?